the heart of the Ural Mountains lies a place shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Welcome to the Dyatlov Pass. In January 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers embarked on an expedition into the wilderness of the Soviet Union. Led by Igor Dyatlov, these adventurers were ready to conquer the elements and push the boundaries of exploration. But what started as an exciting journey soon turned into a nightmare. On February 2nd, the hikers failed to report back as planned. Concerned family members urged authorities to launch a search and rescue mission. Days passed with no sign of the hikers. Then, on February 26th, searchers made a chilling discovery. The hikers' tent, torn from the inside, lay abandoned on the slopes of Kolatsyakl, also known as Dead Mountain. What happened next remains one of the most baffling mysteries in history. The bodies of the hikers were found scattered in the snow, miles away from their campsite. Some were shoeless, others wearing only underwear, despite the freezing temperatures. Autopsies revealed horrifying injuries. One hiker had a fractured skull, another had a missing tongue, and some showed signs of severe internal trauma. Yet there were no external wounds to explain their deaths. As investigators delved deeper, they uncovered more questions than answers. What could have caused these experienced hikers to abandon their tent in the dead of night? And what could explain the injuries that led to their untimely demise? Over the years, numerous theories have emerged to explain the Dyatlov Pass incident. Some speculate that the hikers fell victim to an avalanche, while others believe they were attacked by a yeti or other unknown creature. Then there are those who point to more sinister explanations, including military involvement or even extraterrestrial activity. But despite decades of speculation and investigation, the truth behind the Dyatlov Pass incident remains elusive. To this day, it stands as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden in the most remote corners of our world. And perhaps some mysteries are best left unsolved. So I ask you, what do you believe happened? Was it an unknown creature? Suicide? Extraterrestrials? Let me know your thoughts. Today, we plunge into the enigma of the Black Dahlia murder, a chilling saga that continues to haunt the annals of true crime. Born on July 29, 1924, in Boston, Massachusetts, Elizabeth Short was a young woman with dreams of stardom. Like many before her, she ventured to Los Angeles, seeking fame and fortune in the glittering lights of Hollywood. But instead of finding fame, Elizabeth found only tragedy. On the morning of January 15, 1947, her mutilated body was discovered in a vacant lot in Leimert Park, Los Angeles. The sight that greeted investigators was beyond grisly. Elizabeth's body had been severed at the waist, her face slashed from ear to ear in a grotesque grin. The killer had meticulously cleaned her body before leaving it on display for the world to see. The Los Angeles Police Department launched one of the largest manhunts in its history, but despite their efforts, the case soon grew cold. Suspects came and went, each more tantalizing than the last, but none proved to be the elusive killer. Among the myriad theories that emerged was the notion that Elizabeth's murder was the work of a serial killer. Some even speculated that the Black Dahlia was merely one in a string of victims, their deaths linked by a common thread of brutality. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the Black Dahlia murder is the mystery that still surrounds it. Decades have passed since Elizabeth Short's death, yet the truth remains as elusive as ever. As we confront the darkness that lies within the human soul, let us never forget the tragedy of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. May her memory serve as a reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows. I liked to go on walks in the morning and night. Being I was always bored and found it peaceful to go on walks as I'd go occasionally through the woods of my old town. I remember it being a Friday night and I was walking with a friend. We will call him Leo. Leo had brought his dog Sammy with us. Me and Leo were walking down a dirt path around 9 p.m. or so. The moon shined through the thick forest, making it somewhat peaceful. As me and Leo were talking, we noticed Sammy would keep on looking behind us every few seconds. Sammy would even stop and stare off into the darkness behind us. Don't get me wrong. We definitely thought it was creepy. Leo would even have to tug on Sammy's leash to get him to move. While me and Leo ignored it for a while and talked about teenage things, I heard a branch snap somewhere behind us. "You hear that?" I asked him. Me and him paused for a moment to hear nothing but the nature that surrounded us. "Just an animal," Leo said in an almost shaky voice. Something did not feel right. I remember Sammy starting to growl and pull Leo ahead, as if he were chasing something. We followed Sammy. Me and Leo were both out of breath just keeping up with the dog. Suddenly, everything grew quiet in the forest, and Sammy had stopped in his tracks. His ears were backwards, and he crouched on the ground with his tail out, almost like a defensive position. Me and Leo couldn't see in front of us, being it was dark, and we were now off of the dirt path. Sammy started barking at something in front of us. Me and Leo turned on our flashlights. It looked like Sammy was barking and looking at a tree that was 15 yards or so ahead of us. I couldn't help but notice just how quiet it really was. It was like all of the insects and animals didn't want to be heard or something. As we shined our lights on the tree, my heart dropped as I could see a pale face peek from the side of the tree. Leo took a few steps back. Its appearance is hard to describe, but it was pale, a large head that almost looked like a cone, and had long arms. Me and Leo looked at each other and laughed a little. "Okay, you're a funny guy." Me and Leo laughed. We both were waiting for this person to take off his outfit and reveal himself. But after thinking about it, it made no sense. Why would a person be dressed as a monster in the middle of nowhere? Me and Leo slowly backed away from the thing. Leo pulled Sammy off of the ground and tried to get him to move. The creature went behind the tree and switched sides. It had raised its arm along the tree, revealing how huge it actually was. Its arm was almost as tall as the tree itself. Leo pulled Sammy even harder and I continued to back away. Suddenly, the flashlights both went out. I remember hearing running footsteps headed towards us in the pitch-black forest. I remember grabbing Leo by his shirt and practically dragging him while I ran as fast as I could. I heard the sound of ripping in the distance, along with Sammy's whining. I ran and ran through the darkness. I could eventually hear footsteps coming behind me very fast. My heart was pounding and I didn't want to stop. Not one bit. Eventually, after a few more seconds of running, I jumped onto a nearby road where it was a little busy. I turned around to look in the dark forest to see nothing, as if it didn't want to come out. That day will always be a day I will never forget. No matter how hard I try. Leo doesn't talk to me anymore, being that I left Sammy in his words. I've told multiple people about the creature we encountered that night. People think I'm crazy. Ever since then, I go in the area to hunt for what I saw that day. I'm 53 years old and still haven't found anything. I'll keep you people updated if anything changes. The shadows danced around me as I ventured deeper into the abandoned mine, my flashlight casting feeble beams of light into the darkness. Each step echoed off the walls, a constant reminder of the desolate emptiness that surrounded me. But little did I know, I was not alone. I'd always been drawn to the mysteries of the unknown, seeking out forgotten places and lost legends in my quest for adventure. So, when I heard whispers of a long-abandoned mine hidden deep in the woods, I couldn't resist the urge to explore its depths. As I navigated the twisting tunnels, the air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. It was as if the very walls were closing in around me, suffocating me in their embrace. But still, I pressed on, driven by a sense of curiosity that bordered on obsession. But then, I heard it. A faint scratching sound, like claws against stone, echoing through the darkness. My heart skipped a beat as I froze in place, listening intently for any sign of movement. I was alone in the tunnel, so there was no way that was a person. The scratching sound was growing louder and louder. My heart began to beat out of my chest. I used the light from my helmet and looked ahead to see if I could find what was making such a sound. When the lights turned on, I couldn't hear the scratching. The thing that made me uncomfortable was the fact I heard running footsteps run back deeper into the tunnel. I turned off the light and waited. I heard running footsteps again. I turned the light on again. And then, I saw it. A pair of glowing eyes, shining like beacons in the blackness, fixated on me with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. They seemed to float disembodied in the darkness, unblinking and malevolent. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest as the creature emerged from the shadows. It was like nothing I had ever seen before, a twisted amalgamation of flesh and bone, its form contorted and grotesque. Its eyes never left mine as it advanced, its movements slow and deliberate, as if savoring the fear that radiated off me like a palpable aura. I could feel its gaze boring into my soul, stripping away the layers of my humanity until there was nothing left but raw, primal terror. I turned around and ran as fast as I could out of the mine tunnel. I ran until I could see the light of the outside sun. Before I got out, I took one final glance over my shoulder to see the large creature submerge itself back in the shadows of the mine tunnel. Later that same day, I returned with a group of friends who didn't believe me. I know that may be stupid to some of you, but I just didn't know if I was going crazy or what. They didn't find anything. I tend to lure around the mine to this day, waiting to see if the creature will ever want to come out one night. Be careful when exploring. You never know what is waiting for you on the other side. The story was submitted to me by a man that goes by Evan. Here it goes. I live on a farm and am surrounded by nothing but animals and a giant cornfield. Me and my wife were in bed sleeping one night and was woken by what seemed to be footsteps. I thought maybe one of the animals had gotten out, being it's not the first time it had happened. I put on my boots and marched outside after my wife told me to get up and check it out repeatedly. I looked around to find nothing. All of the animals were in their pens. I sat outside in the dark for a few more minutes before going back to bed. The next night, I had just finished cleaning out the pig pen. I decided to sit on the porch and take in the sounds of nature and the beautiful view of the night. I started a little fire at the fireplace and relaxed while my wife was making us dinner. As I was relaxing, I heard footsteps again. I reached over and grabbed my shotgun. The footsteps were coming from the cornfield. It was too thick and tall to see through the field. "Who's out there?" I yelled out. The footsteps stopped. There was just silence. I noticed all of the animals started to act strange. I stood up and tensed. I walked back and forth on my porch, waiting for whatever it was to come out. I noticed all of the animals in the fences moved away from the cornfield. Must be a damn animal. I waited a few minutes again to see if anything would happen. Eventually, the animals acted normal again. I took it as if the wild animal was gone. I went in and told my wife what had happened. It was around 1 a.m. in the morning. It was raining and I could hear something on the side of the house. almost like footsteps on the side. I got up and moved towards the window in our room. I opened the window and looked up to see what looked like a figure crawling out of view on the roof. Fuck, I remember whispering to myself. My heart was racing. It was hard to even feel my legs from how terrified I was. I turned around and practically jumped on the bed to grab my gun. My wife kept asking what was wrong, but I did not want to scare her more than I already was. When I went to the window and looked outside, I could see it. A shadow figure's head standing over the tall cornfield. Mind you, the cornfield was 12 feet tall. The figure let out a deep growl that seemed to echo over the entire farm. My hands began to shake. I remember the creature dropping low and back deep into the field. As I watched the field move wherever the creature moved, I heard the voice of a woman, man, girl, and even animals. It was coming from the thing. I moved and locked all the doors in the house. I even called the police. I did a search throughout the area, but couldn't find anything. I told them I had an intruder on my property. I didn't want to be honest with them about what I had seen, being I would sound crazy. It's been about 10 years since that night. You can find some of my farm animals acting strange or just dying randomly to this day. I don't know what that thing was, but I feel as though it's among my farm animals. Like it's one of them. The next step is to capture camera footage. I'll keep you updated if anything happens. I believe that monsters really do exist in this world. Stay safe out there, everyone. You never know who or what is watching you in the distance.